Good evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Sean Yao.
The big stories tonight. The so-called king and queen of contractors have severed ties with the Independent Commission for Infrastructure. Curly and Sara Diskaya are no longer cooperating with the ICI. Where does this leave the fact-finding body?
And still on the flood control probe, President Bongbong Marcos believes there is no way he can be connected to the scandal. He does acknowledge, though, that his political critics will try to tag him in this mess.
And it's literally open season. First, the opening of government official salons to the public, and now BICAM meetings on the 2026 budget, which President Marcos says will be live-streamed for transparency.
They are now saying that they will no longer appear before the commission and cooperate.
I don't see fear in their faces. Para silang parang sinasabi nila, balang araw makakawalan din ako, kaya hindi ko kailangan sabihin lahat. Iba silang kausap talaga. Iba silang kausap. Matinig at madulas.
Contractors Sara and Curly Diskaya have backed out. Osaka, however, said that Singzon's statement is his own personal opinion.
And upon the advice of their counsel, they invoked their right to self-incrimination and manifested that they will no longer cooperate with the investigation being conducted by the ICI. I believe, and I saw the interview, that he qualified that as his own and not by the commission. So because of that, they are now saying that they will no longer appear before the commission and cooperate.
Osaka assured that despite the Diskayas' withdrawal, the investigation will proceed. The commission had already obtained several documents from the couple.
But as far as the evidence, their testimonies and affidavits which they have already submitted to the commission, we will consider those. So we will consider.
In what sense?
That will be part of our investigation. Marami naman tayong mapapagkuhanan ng information. In fact, ang dami nang nagte-testify. We have other sources. No? We can tap other sources.
Speaking to our sister program StoryCon this afternoon, Ombudsman Boying Remulla said while he was still Secretary of Justice, it was made clear to the Diskayas that their application as state witnesses was still under evaluation. The Diskayas, however, decided to stop cooperating last week when they were told that they would still have to suffer jail time.
Pwede pa kami magbigay ng blanket immunity. Iyan na ang pinag-uusapan namin sa DOJ noong panahon na yun. Kaya hindi talaga, sinabihan din talaga sila that they may have to suffer jail time kahit na paano. Kasi yun talaga ang hirap ng kasong ginawa nila at ang dami nilang participation sa iba't ibang pangyayari. They were under evaluation. It was clear to them that they were under evaluation. In fact, nag-walk out sila, no, sinabihan nga sila that they may suffer jail time. They stopped cooperating already last week.
So at this point, Ombudsman, pwede na naming sabihin, ruled out na sila as state witness. I understand yung korte mag-a-approve niya, no? Pero i-endorse niya eh. Pwede na namin sabihin, hindi sila pwede.
We can say that unless they tell all and that it really makes everything clear, pwede yan. Kaya lang, hindi nga tell all mode eh. I think they're mahirap na magsalita. Pero iba silang kausap talaga. Iba silang kausap. Maybe out of political calculation. Wala pa silang nararamdaman fear. I don't see fear in their faces. Para silang parang sinasabi nila, balang araw makakawalan din ako, kaya hindi ko kailangan sabihin lahat. Ika nga sa Tagalog, matinik at madulas. At ayaw umamin. Talagang lahat ay gagawin para malagyan ng balakid yung pagpasok mo sa katotohanan. Yun lang nahalata namin kasi nga may mga as SOJ yan, tinanong ko sa kanila yung CLTG. Ang sinabi sa akin, never nila nakilala yung Christopher Lawrence Bongo na CLTG, Christopher Lawrence Tesoro. That's the initials of the person, the senator in the company that dealt with them. They never met him. Looking at their record, na puro selfie sila at puro picture sila with everybody they meet. You think it's possible?
Now, meantime, lawmakers are all in.
It's a welcome development because it's easier for those who want to know about their public servants, kung ano yung kanilang kinikita, ano yung kanilang mga negosyo. And in light of what's happening right now na maraming mga nasasangkot sa flood control projects, may mga related sa contractors.
At sana nga isa ito sa mga unang hakbang patungo sa hinahanap ng taong bayan na mas malinis na gobyerno sa ating bansa.
Doon sila mag-umpisa kasi siyempre tinago, di ba? Bakit kaya, di ba? Baka sakaling malaman natin ano yung dahilan bakit hinigpit, di ba? So, but anyway, of course, that's up to the current ombudsman to decide.
Now, over at the House of Representatives, Speaker Boji D said his colleagues are willing to release their SALNs. He said the month-long session break will be used to hash out details for it.
Willing naman sila. Siguro to put it formally na maayos kung talagang paano ang magiging proseso. Sa tingin ko magandang mapag-usapan yan. Ito, during our break, pag-uusapan namin mabuti para sa ganon, maglabas ng gamay kung paano yung aming suporta sa paglabas ng aming mga SALN.
Our first guest tonight is former Integrated Bar of the Philippines President Attorney Domingo Igon Cayosa. Good evening and welcome to this big story, Attorney.
Good evening, ladies. Magandang gabi sa ating mga kababayan.
All right, let's discuss first the Diskaya couple. Now that they are no longer cooperating with the ICI, that this means that the ombudsman can file cases against them in the flood control scandal.
Definitely, with or without the cooperation of the Diskaya couple, the ombudsman or the DOJ or any authorized agency of government can file cases against them. I think what has been publicly revealed, documents and testimonies, would be more than enough basis to file so many cases against them. They are in no position to negotiate about immunity. They should not blackmail government. I think they unduly relied on the one senator who recommended them to be state witness. But that has been exposed already. And I hope that the ombudsman, now that we have an ombudsman, would do its job because the ombudsman has a lot more power than ICI.
Right.
Doesn't need the Vizcayas to be state witness. Secondly, I hope that the ombudsman will use not only his power to file cases against them, his power to subpoena, and his power to include them as co-accused for future cases, because that's within the power of the ombudsman. So marami yang kapangyarihan Sana sunod-sunod. BIR, meron din fraud yung pag-collect dun sa insurance. Ang dami, AMLA, i-freeze lahat ng asset nila. There are many ways by which the Discayas and similar enablers or conspirators of the congressman and senator who stole from us can be disabled.
Madulas at matinik is how the ombudsman described the couple. And also, it seems they are not telling everything. They are selective in their disclosures, like their connection to the contractor owned by, I believe, the Senator Bongo, or his family.
That has been obvious right from the very start. So, nakakapagtaka lang, nakakalungkot na it's only now na nare-realize nila. But that's water under the bridge. So, the other very obvious fact also is, di ba sabi nila, wala namang magnanakaw na nagsasabi ng totoo. So, this angling for being state witness, except from prosecution, should have been junked a long time ago. I think some people made a lot of political noise and political play out of it, but I'm glad they were exposed for who they are and what they are. So the most powerful person or institution is not the ICI. As a matter of fact, if the ombudsman does his job, DOJ, NBI, all the existing agencies of government, ICI becomes irrelevant.
Could it be possible that they're also weighing, the noise that will come from the opposition, from the Duterte camp, that they are again being targeted?
Well, I think they're doing a meta-legal approach. Alam nila na legally, kung talagang seryoso ang gobyerno, lagot sila. Kahit madulas, matinik sila, kung matatag at marunong at tapat yung mga mang-uusig ng gobyerno, kulong mga yan. There's more than enough evidence. So I think they're angling from the political side.
Right. Pero kasi malapit ng 2028. So nagdi-dribble, kumbaga.
Precisely.
That's why dapat bilisan because,
you're right on point, Ses. Yung injustice is not only yung hindi pagpa-file, yung pagdi-dribble. We have seen a lot of dribbling in all agencies of government, especially those yung mga institutions of oversight, di ba? Ombudsman walang ginawa, yung DOJ noon, yung Kongreso, yung COA, they're also involved here. And then even the courts all the way up to the Supreme Court. Our justice system is notoriously slow and delay breeds corruption. So sana, I'm glad you're putting that forward. It's not just filing cases. Huwag nyo nang i-dribble, huwag nang natin paabutin sa susunod na political fiesta. Baka mawala na naman ito and ang kawawa tayo. Ninakawan na tayo, wala tayong ma-recover, wala rin nananagot.
Should the Sandigan Bayan form a special division to tackle these cases that will be coming its way?
It can do that under its own rules and the Sandigan Bayan law, and I think they should do that. If, again, the judiciary is serious. We have to understand that even if the ombudsman does his job and files all these cases tomorrow for future cases, BIR, all kinds of cases, AMLA, freeze them, to immobilize them because, it has to be all the available remedies to government should be used. That has never been done by government. It should be used. But then again, all of this will have to go through the judiciary. And we have to watch also the judiciary because in too many instances, corruption has already sit in, na-capture na rin ang mga huwes, mga piskal, mga justices.
But Attorney, you did mention the Ombudsman has more powers than the ICI, and Ombudsman Remulla did assure that he is willing to go after the big fish. Wala siyang sisinuhin. But at the same time, how difficult will it be for the office to establish culpability of government officials? What kind of evidence, what kind of smoking gun should they be looking for?
It will not be difficult because difficulty is relative. if you look at the powers of the ombudsman, it's not only the ombudsman law, it's the Constitution. And he has a lot more powers beyond or aside from investigating and prosecuting. He has the power to publicize. He can do lifestyle checks. He can initiate forfeiture proceedings for unexplained wealth. So it turns the table around. Hindi kasi ito ginagawa ng mga maraming nakaraang ombudsman. To my mind, iisa lang so far na nakaraan ang nagawa ito. Kaya siguro ni Ombudsman Boying higitan ito. It's not difficult. We have to disabuse the mind of our people that it's difficult. That's what the corrupt people in government would want the country to believe, that it's not difficult. It is very possible.
That's exactly what Ombudsman Remulla said to us last night when we talked to him. No? But you're right. To that point, his first move was to reopen, access to these SALNs. What are your thoughts? Because I'm seeing a lot of noise also about medyo restricted pa rin. It makes it seem like it's easy to access, but actually marami siyang balakid din, kumbaga.
Well, it's a welcome move, and you can test it immediately. Diba? All your worries would disappear or would be would come to truth, no? Depending on what he will do. But so far, based on what is written in his memorandum, it is a significant step forward in implementing the Ombudsman, the SALN law, and the constitutional provisions and transparency and accountability of public officials. It is wrong to say na ito bago. Matagal nang nasa batas yan, nasa konstitusyon. Yung mga nakaraang ombudsman, especially the most previous one, was a miserable failure when it comes to this. Naging obstacle siya ng transparency and accountability instead of moving it forward. So, hindi ho ito gift from the ombudsman. Karapatan ng taong bayan, that is a declared clear policy of the Constitution and the SALN law and the Ombudsman law.
And in fact, Ombudsman Boying Remulla said he vows, and clearly I think he's delivering, that he will be very, very transparent. But I wanted to get your thoughts, Attorney Cayosa, on the fact that he is the first politician to become an ombudsman, usually kasi galing sa judiciary. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've always been vocal about my reservation of, retirees of the judiciary or any other government being appointed to the ombudsman. Ang ombudsman kailangang magilas, matapang, may energy. Hindi yung mga retirees. I'm not saying they're not qualified, but also in terms of track record, nanggaling na sila dyan in delivering justice, and they haven't shown any significant stride, di ba? So maganda na mas bata-bata at the fact that Ombudsman Boying Remulla used to be a congressman, a politician, sa aking tingin nakakatulong yan kasi kung ang mga malalaking buhaya, ang mga politician, alam niya ang galaw nila. Di ba? He has been there. And the other one also is to talk about political will. A politician should know how to weigh things and he should not be scared. I think with his stature, experience in government and the personal, as individuals, he can defend himself because an ombudsman should be ready to die for this country. If you're scared about your safety in this country, wag ka na mag-ombudsman.
Correct. Actually, earlier in his press conference, Ombudsman Remulla was saying just 3 days into his new post, parang na-culture shock daw yung office of the Ombudsman because he really hit the ground running. He wants to act swiftly on these cases. But speaking of cases, Attorney, Ombudsman Remulla also did say plunder is overrated. And the low-hanging fruit here in terms of holding officials accountable would be malversation of public funds. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that, and I appreciate and I wish him luck dun sa approach na yan. Kasi noon, the reason why they kept on insisting on plunder, because it is very difficult to prove plunder. So if you want them not to be accountable, you try to file weak cases or file cases that are very difficult, if not impossible, to prosecute.
It was non-bailable. Non-bailable.
Yeah, that is correct. But even other ordinary cases can be non-bailable.
Correct.
Yeah. The other one, of course, is it's always punitive. Ombudsman has a lot of power that are proactive that would prevent stealing in the first place. hindi nila ginagawa yan because when you go punitive, you have to go through the justice system, the judiciary. Hindi mo kontrolado din yung corruption sa judiciary. Kaya tignan yung ating track record experience. Ang daming final na kaso, kukonti ang nakokonti, mas kukonti ang nare-recover. Ang daming nakalusot dun sa dinidribble-dribble nila and then later on they claim my constitutional right to speedy disposition of criminal cases has been violated. At pinagbibigyan ng mga question. Saan tayo nakakita ng ganyan? So, I wish him well. I think itong mga pangunahing ginagawa niya shows na he's not in the mold of the traditional ombudsman na naging ineffective.
Right. So, pero maganda yung mga sinasabi niya, kaya ba niya? Like in 1 month, magpa-file na ng case. Before, in a span of 1 year, pwedeng matapos magkaroon ng continuous hearing. Kaya yung mga sinasabi ni Ombudsman Remulla.
From what I know publicly, kaya naman because you don't need to file the most difficult cases. You can just start with the low-lying fruits, kumbaga. Secondly, mag-ingat lang siya dun sa sinasabi niya in 1 year tapos yung kaso. I wish that would be true because I've always been advocating our judiciary is notoriously slow and again, delay breeds corruption. And we've had so many tragedies in our judiciary. Hindi niya kontrolado yan. But it's good that he starts it para may pressure sa judiciary.
Should the Supreme Court step in somehow because we are in a national crisis, no? And the former Associate Justice Ascuna had mentioned that before Justice Puno called for a national summit nung maraming extrajudicial killings and the writ of amparo was a product of that. And he is recommending the writ of quitam for ordinary citizens to be able to file the cases themselves. Or for that matter, for the Supreme Court to intervene with its own solutions. For instance, a special division of the Sandigan Bayan to tackle this. If the Supreme Court calls for it, parang hindi proactive yung korte. What do you think, Attorney?
I think your observation is very correct. In the midst of all of this, it should be a whole of nation approach, whole of government approach. But the Supreme Court and the judiciary has been deafeningly silent. Wala silang ginagawa. And it starts with them. The Supreme Court can resolve, let's finish all the cases pending before us. Because there are many cases, including graft cases, na nadidribble din. Diba? Secondly, you're correct. The Supreme Court doesn't need to wait for the Ombudsman or anybody else, media, to tell them. If they really wanted to address corruption, dapat gumawa na sila ng mga special court. That's within their powers. And then they amend the rules because that's definitely within their constitution. To make it daily hearing. Yung bang dedicated, they never
You're the IBP. You should tell them. Sino ba dapat?
When we were IBP president, we've been privately encouraging them, telling them. But of course, we're not the Supreme Court. They are the ones given the power. And the track record of the Supreme Court pagdating dito, very limited, if not small. So I hope they wake up. So, sa totoo lang, ang dami ng mga kaso. Like the impeachment case is an anti-graft case, di ba? Yung ang charge. Tignan nyo ang nangyayari, di ba? Hanggang ngayon, hindi pa rin na nare-resolve.
Oo nga eh.
But yung 2025 budget.
We're just barking at the congressmen, the senators, and all. Of course, we should. But we're not also looking at the judiciary.
Right.
All of these cases
You're
will go
correct.
to the judiciary.
Sean has pointed out. Go ahead, Sean, di ba?
The 2025 budget, we were hoping by the time na dumating yung budget season, meron na silang desisyon, di ba, para naman makagalaw. Pero, Attorney, to your point, no, speaking of deafeningly silent, what do you think about the ICI, their secrecy, as well as the fact na they're born out of an EO and they're not legislated?
Well, we wish them luck, but itong policy nila na hindi yung limited transparency, I don't think it's serving them any good. As a matter of fact, the way it's happening, may eclipse na. They become irrelevant. They have very limited powers. And I'm sure the lawyers of Diskaya and their political backers and they themselves and all of these grafters and corrupt people, yung alam nila yan, na they can defy it. So, malaking tulong sana sa ICI that they publicize what they're doing because they need the help of ordinary people down there at the district level so that they can send in their information. Grabe sana ang crowdsourcing ng information nowadays.
Well,
very
which Malolos has done.
Yes, but they are not being transparent. Sinong magsasayang ng oras, ipapakilabas mo sa kanila, hindi mo na malaman kung black hole ang pupuntahan yan. I don't think that was a practical move. All these pretensions about due process, trial by public, they're not a court for crying out loud, di ba? You don't violate anything when you involve the people and show them what is actually happening. This is public interest. Di ba? Ang pinapangalagaan na privacy ng mga... they have all the chance naman. Due process is everybody is given a chance to say his piece and everything on record. Bakit ayun? So, I wish them well, but I hope they realize now they're, sliding into irrelevancy. They have very low credibility. And if Ombudsman Boying will do his job, mauunahan niya sila.
Para silang investigador ng ombudsman in a way, gathering facts and passing the information to the ombudsman.
That's correct, but if you look at it, says they're just an added bureaucratic layer.
That's true.
Kasi ang pupuntusan din naman na NBI, DOJ, magre-recommenda. Ganun din. Mas maganda pang ombudsman. He has the power of compulsion. Has proactive powers na malinaw sa Constitution at sa kabatas. ICI wala yan. Diba? Ang ombudsman is accountable. Hindi niya gagawin ang trabaho. Who can be impeached by Congress. ICI wala.
So should the Senate and the House of the lower house still bother with giving them more teeth, passing a law to give them, subpoena powers, contempt powers, etc.? O wag na?
Would it make a difference?
Well,
yeah.
The way things are unfolding, speed is very important because we cannot wait for another long drama. Secondly, it will only duplicate bureaucratic red tape. And worse consider this. Any smart litigator would tell you, they'll be very happy if there are differences or conflicts in detail dun sa sinasabi ng ICI, Ombudsman, DOJ, all kinds of government. Because they will exploit that.
Jump at that.
In a criminal case and say, this is not reliable because same government, different agencies are different in details. Beyond reasonable doubt ito So bakit maglalagay pa tayong napakaraming layers na maaring i-exploit ng magagaling na litigation lawyers to say, hindi credible ito kasi magkakaiba na ang sinasabi nila sa magkakaibang forum. And I suspect some of these people are aware of that and have been advised, iba-ibahin nyo para pagdating ng prosecution, guguluhin natin, di ba?
Actually, Attorney, I think one example also dun sa lack of powers ng ICI is that they can't cite, for example, si former Congressman Zaldico in contempt for not showing up in their hearings. They still have to petition sa RTC na i-cite siya in contempt and then so walang arrest warrant and all that. Do you agree with that, Attorney?
Well, I think it's an exercise in futility. I wish them well, no? But if you go by the track record of our RTCs, even the collegial courts, even the super bagal nga ito di ba? So the lawyers will just keep on postponing, creating obstacles, manganganak yung mga kaso. Tapos na ang lahat, wala pa silang desisyon ng RTC. I-appeal pa yan sa Court of Appeal, sa Supreme Court, and God knows when influence, politics and money and even threats would prevail over these judges and magistrates. So masyadong masalimuot yung ganun and then
Attorney, a final question. There's a call of some lawyers groups. Huwag nyo nang kuning kliyente ang mga mandarambong. Is that against your oath?
Well, I appreciate that. That's the right. Saludo ako sa kanilang passion. But, ethics-wise, mahirap yon. Kasi hindi mo naman pwedeng pagbawalan ng sino mang abogado depende on the information or his honest belief dito na criminal yan o guilty, hindi mo na i-defend. Kasi nga, the role of the lawyer is not only to save the guilty or, make white black. That's not his role. His role is to make sure that the legal process goes through properly and the rights of everyone, including the accused and the criminals, are respected. There are many levels. So it is noteworthy. We salute them, but it will be legally and ethically impossible to get any lawyer to refrain from defending a particular client.
Right.
It's a personal decision.
We thank you for your time. We were talking to former IBP President Attorney Domingo Igon Cayosa.
All right, we're just going to take a quick break, but coming up, BICAM meetings on next year's budget should be live streamed. That's according to President Bongbong Marcos. And so far, he has found nothing wrong with the House's version of the spending fund. The details of that when we return. Keep it here on One News.
And the Speaker na ganun ang gagawin natin. We will live stream the entire process so that if there are questionable, shall we say, insertions or additions or all that, it will also be clear who moved, who made those changes or who proposed those changes so that people will know.
The President also said he has perused the 6.793 trillion peso national budget the lower house approved on third and final reading, and so far he is not seeing anything there that should be vetoed, nor any item not in line with the administration's objectives.
I'm hoping and I'm fairly confident that that's not going to be necessary, simply because that we have been involved, I have been involved as you can imagine, I have been involved in detail on the preparation, especially in the House, of the budget. And as far as we have been able to examine, there are no projects that are listed there. There are no items that are listed there that are outside of the socio-economic development plan of the Philippines and all the plans derived from that, i.e., kung saan pupunta yung FMR, kung saan pupunta yung school building. The last time that I saw the last version of the budget, wala naman akong nakita na humihiwalay doon sa plano ng national government. Kaya't hindi siguro kailangan mag-veto. Pero tignan natin kasi hindi pa tapos ang proseso. Dadaan pa sa Senado yan, dadaan pa sa BICAM.
Now let's get the views of someone who's been following the budget process. Economist JC Punong-Bayan. Good evening to you and welcome to the show, JC.
Yes, good evening, ladies. Thanks for having me again.
Tama ba si Presidente na dapat walang i-veto?
I'm not sure, Seth, what version he's looking at. Okay. But among us budget analysts and observers, we are already identifying major red flags, even with the House GAB, General Appropriations Bill, that Congress passed on Monday. First and foremost, I think we should all watch out for the 243 billion peso unprogrammed appropriation. So I think this is really the bone of contention right now. Congress has seemingly become addicted to unprogrammed appropriations since this ballooned in the 2022 budget, and they can't wean themselves off of this unprogrammed appropriations. It has become sort of a slush fund, if you think of it, a secondary budget. And the problem is this program appropriations is so huge, and it's a lump sum fund. And it's up to, in fact, Congress has kind of given up part of its power of the purse to the executive, because right now in the House, Gab, it's a fine detail, but there's a sneaky provision that they inserted that will allow the budget secretary to approve all of these releases from the unprogrammed appropriations. And this is a new innovation in the 2026 budget so far that has not been included in previous budgets. So we should actually study this very carefully, because this empowers essentially the executive through the DBM secretary to play around with all of these unprogrammed appropriations.
Malacanang defended this 2 days ago by saying that that will be used, parang contingency fund yun para sa mga kung may masalanta, may bagyo, may earthquake, etc.
Well, the thing is, there's already a contingent fund in the program appropriations. So in other words, if they really want to allocate more funds for contingencies such as earthquakes or typhoons, etc., then they only need to beef up this contingent fund. There's no reason at all to put such a huge fund for unprogrammed appropriations for the purpose of addressing these calamities. And if you think of it, it's actually harder to access funds from the unprogrammed appropriations. Kasi emergency nga di ba? You want a quick release or quick disbursement of these funds. But traditionally, historically, there are very strict revenue conditions by which you can access or authorize releases from the unprogrammed appropriations. Kung merong mga new revenue sources, as well as extra revenues, more than what they had anticipated for the year, for the fiscal year. And also, kapag merong mga loans for foreign-assisted projects. Those are the only 3 conditions. Pero for the 2025 budget, nagsingit nga sila ng another sneaky provision that allows a cash sweep. For the 2024 budget, they inserted a provision that allows for a cash sweep of GOCCs. Kaya inamin ni Mika Swansing, di ba, na nakapag-release ng Pondo for Flood Control from unprogrammed funds. Yung isang release for 2024 is 107 billion. Suspiciously, that's also the same amount that they got from PDIC, which is the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation, na inamin na nagbigay na sila ng 107 billion as well. So parang if you connect the dots, parang essentially kumuha sila ng pera from PDIC supposed to insure depositors' money.
So anong ibig sabihin nun? Walang pambayad sakaling, depositors need to be covered. Let's just say in the event a bank fails. Yeah.
Well, the BSP Governor Eli Remolona has assured the public that there will be no bank runs. However, this is very bad practice in the sense that dapat hindi mo pinaglalaroan yung pera ng PDIC. For flood control, we have to verify this pa kasi nga, they're not being transparent. Pero there's a very huge chance na yung 107 billion from PDIC ginamit for flood control as based dun sa statement ni Mika Swansing. So that's a really, really big red flag. And I think it should be the subject of a Supreme Court case.
Why do you say, sorry, just let me follow up that, you say that this is a new addition in the 2026 budget, a sneaky way. Iba to sa 2025 na ginawa
so
nila.
Yung cash sweep that allowed the cash sweep that allowed them to get money from PhilHealth, yung 60 billion transfer, and also yung PDIC 107, mas malaki pa nga yung PDIC. That was in the 2024 budget. They removed it in 2025 kasi nabisto. Pero ngayong 2026, merong bagong provision nilagay sa unprogrammed funds, number 9, if you check the HGAB, that will allow the DBM Secretary to authorize yung releases almost unilaterally. That's why we have been arguing that we should really scrutinize or interrogate, if possible, itong DBM Secretary si Amenah Pangandaman. Kasi she's really a crucial piece of the puzzle. Paano na-release yung pondo from unprogrammed appropriations for flood control? Dadaan yan sa kanya. So we should all be interrogating her.
JC, I wanted to ask you, may mga suggestion kasi about anong pwedeng gawin nga doon sa amount ng unprogrammed appropriations. What do you believe? Dapat ba i-zero ito? Dapat ba may kakaunti? At kung meron man, 2% ba dapat? Or 5%? 2% suggestion yun ni DOF Secretary Ralph Recto, malaki daw yung 5%. I think 5% was the DBM suggestion na pwede daw i-cap na lang at that. But what do economists think?
Well, Sean, actually si DBM Secretary Pangandaman herself in a news item, parang na-ambush interview siya, she kind of admitted na they're getting kind of worried na sobrang laki na ng unprogrammed appropriations kasi in other countries, nasa maximum of about 3% lang yung contingent fund. Pero they have allowed in the past 3 budgets these unprogrammed appropriations to balloon to gargantuan proportions. Hindi talaga siya good practice eh. And I agree with the proposal of many lawmakers to eliminate this entirely. Kasi this has been weaponized or this has been used by lawmakers. They have found out a clever way of reviving yung di ba nung 2013 it was banned yung discretionary pork. Pero they have now discovered a way by which they can revive yung dating nakagawian na lump sum funds, discretionary. Pero ngayon, damay na yung executive and then sobrang lalaki na ng pera at trillions of pesos na ang cumulative na amounts involved. So I really agree that this should be zeroed out.
Okay. At yung FAPS kasi yun, yung isa pang argument ni Congresswoman Swansing, sabi niya hindi daw nahabol yung papeles or yung mga contracts for foreign assisted projects. Kaya nag-allocate sila ng unprogrammed na nasa mga over 97 billion, which is the bulk of the 240 plus billion.
Well, this is really unbelievable, Sean? Kasi marami sa mga proyekto na to ay matagal I'm just looking now at the list of these projects. For example, yung LRT Line 1 Cavite Extension. Bata pa lang ako ay may ganyan.
At paano hindi na ihabol yun? Talaga naman.
Yung MRT Line 4, okay? Bataan Cavite Interlink Bridge Project, Cebu Mactan. So in other words, it has been years since these projects have been approved by past administrations, and it's really impossible for them to say na hindi nakahabol. Kasi in fact, if you look at the previous budgets, nandito na rin, parang they are copy-pasting the same list of projects from one budget to the next. So it's really quite unbelievable yung ganong klaseng statement.
Okay, JC, apart from unprogrammed appropriations, let's talk about the DPWH's defunded flood control project. So you have 255 billion pesos now out of the DPWH, but mukhang napunta pa rin siya sa mga patronage-driven projects like Tupad, AIX, MAIFIP. What are some of the red flags you're seeing there?
Yes, yung MAIFIP, for example, sobrang laki din yan. And I think si Speaker D has been saying na actually hindi naman dadaan yan sa mga kongresista, but that's really another unbelievable tale that they are spinning. Now, as for the flood control projects, so originally in the proposed budget, 269 billion actually yan. So they say that they removed 250 or so billion pesos, nireallocate sa education, health, etc. Pero actually, the elephant in the room would be yung road networks. That's why we can tell anyone can tell na misdirection ito. Kasi why are we so obsessed with flood control? That's actually the tip of the iceberg. Kasi the bigger pie of the DPWH budget actually goes to road networks. And in fact, ito na yung trillions of pesos na rin ito in the past couple of budgets. For the 2026 budget, ang kanilang inallocate originally would be 479 billion pesos. So if they're really kind of against itong corruptible projects, yung discretionary funds, then why are they so very silent sa mga road networks? Why focus so much on flood control? Kasi ginagamit na nila na narrative na, we have removed flood control, etc., etc. Pero actually, naging double whammy na nga yung pork kasi bukod sa tinanggal nila yung maraming mga programa from the program funds, they inserted their pork 2 ways. Yung first would be sa program funds through the DPWH, and yung second would be through the unprogrammed appropriations. So ayun we really have to scrutinize itong mga data.
Ano bang sinasabi mo, walang nagbago? Nagpapalusot pa rin sila, ganon?
That is exactly right, Ces. We're really quite worried that the 2026 budget is shaping up to be a business as usual budget.
But are you optimistic, JC, that things will change in the Senate? Because you have Senate President Tito Sotto saying na he is willing na wala nga tanggalin nga itong unprogrammed appropriations.
Well, mahirap ding sabihin kasi on the one hand, he says that, pero if he really pushes through with that, maraming masasagasaan. And I doubt very much that it will come to fruition. You have to note that the senators themselves, as revealed in the hearings, for example, and of course, based on our past knowledge about the workings of the Senate, ay meron din naman sila mga pork projects, yung mga insertions / amendments, etc., sponsoring mga local projects like roads, farm-to-market roads, as well as multi-purpose buildings. So kalakaran din kasi yan sa Senate. And I doubt that there will be massive reductions in their own pork.
Itong network of roads na sinasabi mo, with a new DPWH secretary and a new team, although bago pa lang sila, can they guard against, substandard road projects or ghost projects dito sa road networks or bidding na rigged?
Well, I think ngayon pa lang pumuputi na yung buhok ni Secretary Vince Dizon sa flood control pa lang. I doubt he has much more energy to investigate all of the even more numerous road networks.
Are you saying wag na tayong gumawa ng daan? Medyo naman yun, di ba?
Yung reblocking, di ba? Pinagbawalan niya. Pero JC, question lang, I want to shift it over a little bit to our national debt, which I know binabantayan nyo rin. Tama ba ako? 2.7 trillion ang utang natin to fund this 2026 budget so far, as HGAB has it currently. Is that too much? And what happens if di na lang tayo umutang pero medyo mas mababa yung budget? Will it affect our GDP?
Yes, for developing countries such as ours, Sean, importante actually yung ganitong klaseng investments, even at the expense of, or even if you incur deficits. Kasi nga, even if you remove all of the corruption in public works, it doesn't remove the necessity of investing in infrastructure. Kasi if you look at our rankings in the region, in ASEAN for example, nangungulelat pa rin kasi tayo sa infrastructure investments. Kaya nga nakakalungkot na parang na-double whammy na kulang lang nga tayo sa investments. Ang laki ng nagagastos sa infrastructure, pero lahat yun nakukurakot or a huge part of it nakukurakot. So double whammy talaga siya.
JC, just one last question from me. What are your thoughts on education now getting 1.28 trillion pesos? It was controversial last year. Now they made sure it would get the lion's share of the budget. And the president is even proud that it now meets the 4% GDP benchmark recommended by international agencies. Should we be happy with that number?
Well, Pauline, that's another lie of the administration. Kasi we reviewed the numbers and it turns out to be less than 4%, contrary to what they have been saying. Kasi ang trick naman na ginawa nila this year ay dinagdag nila yung automatic appropriations para sa retirement, sa insurance ng mga kawani ng education sector. So this is not how you compute for the education budget. And if you remove that, it will definitely come short of 4%. So it's not true at all that we have achieved that 4% benchmark.
Okay, so padded siya basically.
We should actually be 6%. It should
yes, I saw that as well. Pero 4% pa nga lang hindi natin ma-reach.
So anong ulit ang didagdag? It's funds that should not be included when you're computing because it's
yes, exactly. Allocations for insurance as well as retirement for workers in the education sector.
Okay.
So parang ito naman yung trick nila this year.
Okay, ang daming magic na nangyayari. Anong solusyon para hindi tayo malito or malinlang dito sa magic na ginagawa nila?
Well, I think the task ahead of us is really to educate the vast majority of Filipinos. Kasi even if we talk about all of these, it's very technical. We have to admit, itong budget discussions, very, very technical. And ayun, it's a barrier definitely for a better understanding of the vast majority of our people. And I think we can all do our part in educating one another when it comes to, especially I would suggest na mag-focus tayo sa unprogrammed funds. Ano ba talaga siya? How do we laymanize it? How do we explain it to other people? It can be done, definitely. Pero we have to go through yung hurdles kasi pag may numbers na, of course, many people don't like to see so many numbers, for example. It's a challenge, but I think it's doable, educating other people about it. Kasi ito yung bone of contention talaga. Dito yung magic. Much of the magic in the budget happens with unprogrammed funds.
All right, we thank you for joining us tonight. Economist JC Punong Bayan. The big story is back with President Bongbong Marcos confident he will not be implicated in any irregularities tied to the flood control scandal. He says he has nothing to hide but believes there are people out to get him.
Wala naman tayong tinatago, wala tayong malakas. I know that there are several, the opposition would love to bring me into this, to include me in all of this. But that's politics. That is not to do about corruption. That is to do about politics. Gusto nila akong tanggalin.
As for persistent rumors, there are retired military officers wanting to overthrow Marcos. The president admitted treading a fine line.
I'm never confident in that sense. In the sense that I know that you have to be very careful to keep everyone as part of the administration and in support of the administration and supportive of the administration. And so we are constantly talking to everyone and saying, is this? We are very open in our discussions, and whoever has any kind of grievance or have any kind of complaints, and who might be thinking of saying that this is not, we no longer agree with the administration. We always go to them and say, what can we do to accommodate your advocacy or some of the things that they would like the national government to do. And so that's what we are doing. When you ask me how confident I am, all I can say is that in our assessment, we are still very much, the administration is still very much on solid ground in terms of support from the different sectors of society. However, we work very hard to continue to earn that support from them. We know that because they voted for you in the last election, that nothing will change. Hanggang kamatayan, yan na yun. Hindi naman ganun yan. Politics is a very variable, very volatile exercise.
time. Have a good night.